Okay, welcome to the party. This is that Little Bear G3 Duke Audio knob sound guitar pedal here. We had a little demo of it and we took it up against the Mr. D Adversary. And now, just because you didn't drink all your milk, we're going to take this thing apart. And just because I'm a little curious of how they did it, and we may experiment and roll some tubes around in here. So if I want to try different tubes, I want to see the easiest way to get at it and how it's put together. So it looks like the bottom's going to come off and the circuit board is mounted to the top with those 4 nuts. I think that's it. So finish taking the end off there. So apparently we only have to take some of the screws out and then this will come out. So we got some fairly big capacitors in there. We've got 300 mic 25 volt. That's that one. This is 1,000 mic at 35 volt. So why? Oh wait, I'm sorry. This is 3,300 mic. Excuse me. This is 3,300 mic. I was trying to go. Why is 1,000 smaller than 30? This is 3,300. This one is not in a position I can read it. I think this is another one of the 3,300s. I think. But here's our tube. Let's see what we got here. See if it'll come out without too much fuss. Ha. It's kind of an interesting way they mounted it in there. Okay. This says, okay, this was supposed to be a 6N4 was what we were talking about. This is 6N2. So I told you wrong earlier. This is 6N2. It is a 9-pin military type tube. I guess that's a Russian number, even though it's a Chinese tube. Maybe it's a Chinese tube, maybe it's not. It looks old. The stamp on here is not very dark. So maybe this is like some old military surplus tube. The pedal switch is connected up here with a ribbon cable. So this probably doesn't have to get unscrewed to come out. You can just, unplug it there. And then we'll take a little gander at what's on the other side. These caps are branded Chong X. This one here is a Nichicon. I can't tell what this is yet, but we'll get a better look at it when it comes out. In general, the Duke Audio products have been fairly well received by the public. They're pretty darn affordable, and most of the folks have said, yeah, these things sound really good for as cheap as they are. And I really don't think this sounds bad at all. I think my pedal sounds a little better, but just knock those 3 off here. Those are beefier pots than I was expecting. I was expecting some really, really chintzy pots, but these look like about the ones on that we get off the alley kits. Similar. Okay, and then this should lift out. It does. And we can see what we have on the other side. So it looks like we have a couple more small caps. These are, what is this? Is this a Chong X or what is this one? This is, yeah, that's another Chong X cap. So Chong X cap, what size is this? Is 3300 microfarad. This one is 3300 microfarad. So, and then that's 1000 mic. And then these little ones are Stone brand 2.2 microfarad. And this little stubby one is 100 microfarad 35 volt. And is a, I think that's also a Chong X. It's hard to tell. So I got two LEDs. We've got this thing right here, which when power comes in, okay, this is curious. Okay. There's a switch down here because 6N2 is a different pin out than 12AX7. So they did put a switch there. If you want to use a 12AX7, you can flip the switch and put a 12AX7 in there. That's good, at least we know. So in the future we can do that. So this is a 6N2. What do we have here? We have, I think this is probably a voltage regulator. And it's got some paste on it. Yeah, it was pasted up here to the top. So, put the paste back to the middle there. See, I wasn't supposed to take that apart there. But I did anyway because I'm just that kind of guy. So that's a voltage regulator there, and we've got two LEDs. Our power comes in here. Let's see, where does that go? This is supposed to run on either DC or AC. So I'm assuming there's got to be a bridge rectifier in here somewhere. If it's going to run on AC, well, at least a diode. We have a diode. That's, let's see. Yeah, this is going to be an adventure to trace this. Our op amp chip is 4558D, branded JRC. Mostly metal film resistors, one looks like maybe carbon comp. And our little caps here are 0.047K, so 0.047s are these little ones here. There's an itty bitty cap here, there's two itty bitty caps here that are honestly too small to read. So that's our voltage regulator. That's probably what mellows this, and there's a switch here to change it between 6N2 and 12AX7. So I'm sure the 6N2 tube was probably, very affordable at the time, but the build quality doesn't look too bad. Solder job isn't perfect, but it actually looks more like, just by seeing the unevenness from thing to thing to thing, this actually looks like it was assembled by hand. The circuit board says Little Bear G3 version 1.2, 09 August 2016. So that's probably the revision of the board and the design and things. So we can play around in the future and maybe put a different tube in it, but we'll stick with the 6N2. It's a 6N2 tube. I read 6N4 on the website. I swear I did, but it's a 6N2. And with this board kind of mounting at 90 degrees, the tube fits in there really tight, but I'm concerned about busting this little board trying to put her back in, because there's a lot of wiggle there. This there. But yeah, the board just attaches with these little 90-degree connections. It looks like there's 6 of the 9 pins are actually used on there. So we'll have to look up that tube. Because again, when I looked up 6N4, that looked like it was supposed to be a 7-pin, but that might have been a US designation or whatever. Now that we know that it's a 6N2, that kind of changes the game up a little bit. So now at least we have an idea of what's inside. What are our pot values here? We have a that says D503, B104, and B103 maybe are the numbers I see on the pots. So B103 would be the tone, D503 would be the volume, and B104 would be the drive pot. So, and there's our smudge of silicone grease there for our voltage regulator. Try to make sure that that's making good contact on there when we put this back down, so we don't jazz it up for future use, because I do kind of like this thing. Okay, so we're going to press that back down, and our voltage regulator seems to have smooshed just fine into the thermal grease. And we'll put these nuts back on and put it back together, but at least we can say we know what's in here. And we know if we're ever going to switch this to a 12AX7, we would need to flip that switch at the time. So we'll come back and just take a look at what a 6N2 actually is. Okay, so we'll make this really short. You can find this on Wikipedia or whatever you want. The 6N2 or 6N2P, which is supposedly the ruggedized version. It's basically like a Russian 12AX7, but the filaments are in series, making it only possible to run at 6.3 volts. And it has a slightly lower gain than a 12AX7. The 6N2P, slightly lower gain and higher filament draw, is similar to a 5751, so we've used 5751s. So yeah, you can read about that tube if you like, but I suppose that little flip switch will readjust the pin differences between 12AX7 and 6N2s. If I remember right, I was reading something about using the 6N2 in replacement of a 12AX7, but you had to flip a few wires around. I never actually bothered to try. So that's all I have to say about that. Now we know what's inside of the Little Bear G3, because we looked. Have a nice night.